Hey, how's it going everybody? In this video, I'm going to take these few designs that I found on Pinterest and show you how to create something similar in Adobe Illustrator. Before we get started, please make sure you are subscribed to support the channel. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is move everything off of my artboard here. And we are going to resize this artboard. This looks like about 18 by 24. And if it's not, I can just adjust it for what it is. So let's go over here and just move this right here. So it looks like we got the height right, but we need to bring in that width just a little bit. Maybe, yeah, we'll just do 17 by 24. So what we're going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is go over to our ellipse tool. We're going to swap the fill and the stroke and make sure that our stroke has a color. It doesn't really matter what the color is right now because we can always change it later. And just make sure that there's no fill. So over here, I'm just going to hold down Option or Alt if you're on Windows, and Shift, and we're just going to draw a circle right here. And then let's go up here to the stroke, and we're going to adjust that to probably around 40 points. That looks about right. And now we're just going to align that with what we have right here. Okay, so now that we have this one laid down, we're going to select it. I'm going to hold down Option or Alt and Shift, and we're going to duplicate this over. We're going to go right to about here. And then at this point, all you have to do is hit Command or Control D one more time to get that third one. And now we'll do the same thing. We're going to hold down Option and click and drag to align this right here. And now we'll do it one more time to get this right here. Now, one thing you can do next to make sure that the one at the bottom is definitely distributed evenly between the top two, we're going to select all three of these. And we're going to go over here to Distribute Spacing and click on Horizontal Distribute Space. And that's going to make sure it is definitely aligned center with the center of these two circles. And now we'll just do the same thing over here. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, and we're going to change the stroke to black. So just double click on that and just go over here and hit OK. All right, so for these bottom two, these actually have a fill color, but the fill color doesn't extend past the circle itself like the top ones do. So let's go ahead and assign this. We can just do any color right now, and we'll color drop on them later. So I'm going to just make this orange and make this purple. All right, and right now these two circles are at the front, so we need to send them to the back. So let's go ahead and grab both of these, and let's go over here to Object and Arrange. I'm going to go ahead and click Send to Back. All right, so that sent our two circles behind our original artwork. So what we need to do is, still with them both selected, we're going to do Command or Control right bracket. And that's going to bring it forward above our artwork. And you can still see through these, but that's because there's no fill color on those top circles. So we don't have to worry about that for now. All right, we have a fill over here, so we just need to click on the no fill. And now I'm going to switch over to our rectangle tool by hitting R on our keyboard. And we're just going to draw a rectangle right here, and now we're going to align it to where it intersects right here with this circle. And let's bring this all the way up to here. And right here where we have this little corner, we can actually adjust that here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and grab our rectangle tool right here, and let's fill it with a temporary green. Like I said, we're going to color drop on those to make those exact colors a little bit later. And now we're going to select this circle right here, and we're going to color drop on this green. And we need to bring this circle all the way to the front. So we're going to go to Arrange and Bring to Front. And now with our Direct Select tool, we're going to select the top two anchor points, and we're just going to drag those to where they're completely rounded right here. And now let's grab this tall rectangle, and we're just going to zoom in until we can make that adjustment on the left side to where it just kind of blends in naturally. And now at this point, all we have to do is duplicate those objects. So we're going to hold down Option, just like we did earlier, and drag those over. And then for this, we can just size that up to there. And now to make sure that we have the exact same sizing, I'm going to do the same thing with the duplication over here. And line that up over there. And now with this selected, I'm going to select both of these and then click on the circle to make that a key object, and we're going to align that exactly with that so that we have that same flush design that we have on the right side. Okay, now for these two circles, we need to bring those to the front. So let's go over here to Object, Arrange, and Bring to Front. And these two, it's kind of like a lighter blue color, so we'll do that temporarily. and these two are a yellow color. And now we just need to bring these two to the front. And you know what I realized in the process of doing this? These are actually transparent. I forgot about that as I was putting all this together. So that's not a problem. All we have to do is, in this case, grab these 3 circles right here and just make sure that we have no fill on it. And of course we do have that weird cutoff thing right down here, but we can fix that pretty easily. So what we're gonna do is grab all 3 of these, and we're just gonna bring these down. And I'm gonna switch over to outline view to make sure that we have exactly everything lined up perfectly, and we do. And now I'm gonna grab this rectangle, and with our direct select tool, I'm gonna select on that anchor, and we're just gonna bring that anchor up to right around here. We'll just say 2 inches exactly. And then we'll do the same thing over here on this side. And we'll do 2 inches again. And perfect. All right, now we actually need to send these 2 to the back. So that way everything overlaps there perfectly. And now let's go ahead and go to Object, Unlock All. Bring the opacity back up to 100%. And then at this point, we can actually get those exact colors. So I'm gonna go ahead and use our direct select tool just to be on the safe side. And I'm gonna click I to activate our eyedropper, but we need to hold down Shift whenever we pick up these colors here. If we don't hold down Shift, you can see what happens. It takes away our stroke. So what we wanna do is only click on the fill color and only eyedrop from that fill color. So let's hit undo. And now we're gonna do our eyedropper while holding Shift. Okay, we've recreated this shape in Illustrator and we didn't use the Pathfinder one time. All right, now let's switch over to this Pepsi design, and what I want to do for this part is actually combine these 2 concepts together. So what I'm going to do is start everything in Illustrator and then bring everything over into Photoshop and finish up effects. All right, so what I'm going to do is create a new artboard. And I'm going to do 18 by 24. That's like the most common size that I use for posters. Okay, and I'm on here on Brands of the World, so I am downloading this version of the Pepsi logo. All right, let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll paste it into here. There's a few things in here that we need to get rid of. First off, there's a bounding box there that we don't need, so we're gonna select that with our direct select tool and just hit delete. Let's scale this up so it's easier to work with. And the entire fill right now is one color. That's going to make it a lot easier to work with. So all we have to do is hit Shift X to swap the fill and stroke. And now we have a blue stroke for everything. So let's go ahead and make it kind of this reddish pink color. And let's increase the stroke weight, probably to around 6 or so. That should work. And just to make things appear just a little bit cleaner, I'm going to align the stroke to the inside instead of the center. Okay, so let's go ahead and group all of this together just to be on the safe side. I'm going to center this. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this all the way up full width. It doesn't really matter what size it is right now. Let's bring it down to about 16 inches so that way it's got an inch of margin on each side. And now I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit copy and paste in front. So now we have the same exact instance of the logo in the exact same position. But what we want to do is size this to probably around 6 inches or so. And now we're going to change the color of this swatch to a much more defined pink. All right, so now we're going to select both of these, and now we're going to use our blending tool. And let's go over here and double click on the blend tool in our toolbar. And now we're going to change the spacing from smooth color to specified steps. And I'm going to do probably 12. I think that sounds like a good number. And just to make things easier to see, let's go ahead and add a background of black, so that way we can actually see what we're working with here. So right now it looks to be a little bit of a jumbled mess. So all we have to do there is double click on our artwork and click on the very last one. And we're just going to bring the opacity down to about 25%. And now to make things even easier to see, let's select all of it again, go up here to Object, Blend, and Reverse Front to Back. So that's going to put the larger one in the front, and it's going to be fading out into the back as it gets darker. And now I'm going to double click on this again, and let's go ahead and go to the very back one. I'm going to bring this all the way down to about 10%. There we go, that's a lot better. And now if we want to match that same red color, let's just make it a little bit more obvious red. There we go, that looks great. And then for this pink color here, we'll make it more of like a hot pink and hit OK. That's the good thing about blending, is that you can still go in and adjust the colors if you need to. So as you can see, it's not exactly the same colors, but that's perfectly fine. You can always go in and adjust the colors as you want them to be. In fact, I may do something a little bit different as we bring this into Photoshop. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside for now. And now let's go ahead and create these little bar type of things that are going on, this really retro wave kind of design that you see a lot. So we're gonna select this and we're gonna bring this opacity down to about 40%. And what we're going to use for this is going to be the rectangular grid tool. So all we have to do is click right here. And what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going across. And then we also have the same number going down. So what you want for something like that is a number of 5 for the horizontal and vertical dividers. So all we have to do is click on OK. And let's go ahead and give this a stroke color just to make it a little bit easier to work with. And we're going to make this the same width as this. We're going to bring this to about right here. And now we're going to go over here to Free Transform, and we're going to click on Perspective Distort. So now we're just going to do this. And now let's go back to our regular selection tool and align this to about right here. Now we'll go back into our Free Transform and just kind of adjust that right there. And what we had before is a stroke of 6 points, so we'll do the same thing here. And now all we have to do here to duplicate this is do our Option, Shift, and drag. And now we're going to go over here to this little handle and rotate this. I like to hold Shift just to make sure we get it exactly right. All right, so now let's go over here and put this at the top. And then we're going to size this up to 18 inches and then subtract 2 to give us 1 inch of margin. And let's go ahead and move this by pressing Enter on our keyboard. And we're going to move it not horizontally, but we're going to move it down vertically by 1 inch. And then we'll do the exact same thing over here on this side. I'm going to do 16 inches. And this time we're going to move it up by 1 inch. So we're going to go vertically -1 inch. All right, so now let's bring Pepsi over here. All right, so the structure of this is looking really nice, although I want our tiles to be a little bit closer to our Pepsi logo. So let's move this down by another 2 inches, and we'll do the same thing over here. All right, that's looking really cool. Now let's bring everything into Photoshop and kind of combine the two concepts together. So I'm going to select both of the tiles, and we're going to hit copy. We're going to bring those into Photoshop as one layer. All right, so I have a document here of 18 by 24 at 300 resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and add a solid color layer, and we're just going to make this black and hit OK. And we still have those tiles on our clipboard, so we're going to hit paste, and we're going to paste as a smart object. Almost always I recommend pasting as a smart object because you can always go back in and edit it if you want to. All right, now let's go back in here and grab our Pepsi logo and go back into Photoshop and paste as a smart object again. And it's very likely that it's already centered my artwork, but I like to do this just out of habit. Make sure that the move tool is selected. I'm going to select all, and we're going to go up here and make sure that we have vertical align and horizontal align. All right, for this next part, we want to add that blue circle, and there's so many different ways that you can do this, but I'll show you my favorite way. It doesn't mean that it's the right way, it's just the way that I like to do it. Before we do that though, I'm going to be a good designer and name my layers. All right, so we want to add that blue circle, and we want it to appear on top of our color fill, but below our Pepsi logo. So what we're going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this blue circle. And what I'm going to do is grab my brush tool by hitting B on my keyboard. And we're going to go over here to the size and bring it up to 5,000 pixels. And we're going to go down to the hardness and make it all the way down to 0. And I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to click. Now, as you can see over here in the blue circle layer, we've created this object inside of this layer, so we can actually move and manipulate this all that we want to. It's not stuck in that position. So again, I'm going to select all on my keyboard, and we're going to align horizontally and vertically. And I'm not stuck with the hue, saturation, or value of this blue. I can always change that if I want to. And what I can do is create an adjustment layer of hue and saturation. And then we're going to go over here to the properties and make sure that we click on this button right here, and it's only going to affect that blue circle. So we can change the colors if we want to. I can adjust that color however I want to. We can make that blue a little bit lighter. We can also adjust the saturation, which right now it's pretty well saturated, but if we go in the opposite direction, it's going to make it less blue and more gray. And then we can change the lightness of it. So we can affect pretty much anything that we want to here. I'm going to bring down the lightness maybe by about 10 points or so. And then we'll make this a little bit more on the royal blue side. And that's looking good for now. So what we're going to do here is to add those glows in that we saw in the original concept. So in our tiles, let's double click on this and go to our layer styles. And I'm going to go ahead and add an outer glow. And right now what we have is very subtle. I'm going to bring up the opacity so you can see it a little bit easier. Let's make this more of like a hot pink so that way you can actually see how this is doing this here. And right now it's very subtle, and that's because the spread is very small. So if we bring up the spread to about 10, you can see it starts to get really dramatic. It's a little bit too dramatic for my taste though, so what we have to do is bring our opacity down to maybe around 50 or so. And we can always change the color of this as well. So if you want to do like a green or like a yellow, that yellow is looking pretty cool. Maybe we can do something that's more like an orange. But we want to make sure that everything is still nice and cohesive here. So I think I'll go back and stick to our original hot pink. And we will be adding kind of like a noise and grain layer here in a little bit, but just want to let you know, you can do that in this particular effect. It's a little bit laggy right now, but you can do that just with the glow effect if you want to. But for now, I'm going to leave it at a 0. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. And now let's say we want to do the exact same effects to the Pepsi logo. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Option or Alt if you're on Windows and click that little effects icon and drag it up to our Pepsi logo while holding that down. So it's going to apply those exact same effects, which obviously are too strong for the Pepsi logo. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments to that. We want to change the color. And just by doing that alone, it's already a lot better. It's not good, but it's a lot better. So I'm going to bring the opacity all the way up to 100 and bring the spread down to 0. And this is just going to help us get kind of a feel for this so that way we can make some adjustments. So let's bring up the sizing of it. I only want it to be probably around 50 pixels. And now we can back that opacity down pretty far actually. I'm going to do like a little bit of this glow here. So here it is with and here it is without. I actually want it to be a little bit more on that subtle side because we've got that blue glow that's all the way in the background and we want it to be kind of slightly affected by it, but not like too crazy. Okay, so in our original concept, we've got like a star overlay. So let's go grab that from Unsplash and go over here and just type in stars. And I'll just grab something like this. That one looks good. And I'm just going to click on that to make it full screen. And now right click and click on copy image. And we're going to go over here to our very topmost layer and we're going to paste this in. And now we're just going to size this up to about right there. And now let's change our blend mode from normal to lighten. So everything is looking really cool right there. What we might do on this blue circle is to kind of lighten it up just a little bit. Although it's kind of conflicting with that Pepsi logo, so I think I'm going to leave it. Actually, I think I'm going to bring it down a little bit. All right, that's looking a lot better. All right, so there's a few more things that I want to do here. Let's add a layer, and we're going to call this grain. And I'm going to hit Shift and Delete and fill this with 50% gray and hit OK. And we're going to go up here to Filter and Camera Raw Filter. I'm going to bring the grain all the way up to 100. We're going to do the sizing at 50 and the roughness at around 75. And let's add a vignette just to kind of make it a little bit more dramatic. Let's go all the way to -40. And let's hit OK. And now let's change the blend mode of this grain to overlay. So zoomed in here, you can see it's kind of getting that VHS type of filter, which is awesome. So just like we had a hue and saturation adjustment layer for our blue circle, let's go ahead and add that for the Pepsi logo as well. So we're going to add hue and saturation, and we're going to clip it just to the logo. That way we can change the hue of the Pepsi logo and make it a little bit more washed out. And I also want to bring up the saturation and the lightness. All right, that's looking really cool. All right, and the very last thing I want to do here is to add kind of a blur to all of our artwork because we have a lot of clean lines here. And if we want that kind of vintage VHS effect, we don't want those clean lines. So let's go over here to Pepsi layer, go over here to filter and blur and Gaussian blur. And we're going to add a blur radius of about anywhere between 3 to 5 pixels or so. And that's going to take those really crisp and clear lines and it's going to just kind of blur them. And it's almost like it's blending with the grain layer that we added earlier. And now we'll do the same exact thing to our tiles. And just like that, we've gone from modern made to obviously made in the 80s. And so here's our finished product. I can easily envision this with a nice glossy finish. I bet that would look so cool. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I taught you something in Illustrator and Photoshop. If I did, please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.